Hello, this is Rachel. I have hamsters, and welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of my podcast. I hope you're having a good week so far and enjoying the end of summer. Isn't it both like sad and also like the most beautiful time of summer? So that it's happy and you're like, I don't know how to feel right now. Something. Anyway, so speaking of summer, my hamsters are currently enjoying hamster camp. This is my kind of August theme for the playpen setup. And it took me a while to get all the ingredients together. Most of it was stuff I already had, but I felt that I very much needed like some cute little Adirondack chairs, which I got. And then I added like a little spray holder that's so cute from Etsy. And then most recently maybe I talked about this. I got a little LED fireplace from Michael's, and I got these tiny little birds from Hobby Lobby, and I glued them onto the chairs and to one of the hides, just to make it, feel a little bit more like woodsy. Yeah, I was tempted to add more like miniature things, like fake trees or something, but I always go back and forth on that. Like I try to mostly make it functional hamster items. I don't know. Well, we'll see where my my camping, or no, not my camping, my playpen setups evolve to. I do have to say I was one of those kids who like loved tiny things. I was all about Polly Pocket and like Beanie Babies. So I guess when you think about it, it makes sense that this is the progression that I've led to. I think there was a period of my life, in my 20s, when I didn't really have a lot of tiny things. And, it feels good to be back. It definitely does. So speaking of that, I know in my last podcast, I talked about how I was excited about going to Hobby Lobby, and I did finally make it. I was thinking that Hobby Lobby was going to be like one of those like hobby stores that's just like trains and miniature, like dollhouse stuff, like just like miniature items. It was not, maybe those things were there, but it was so overwhelming. It was like Michael's kind of, but then enormous and just like filled to the brim with stuff. I ended up buying some lemon printed melamine plates, which were totally not hamster related. I just needed some plates and then I liked them. And I tried to walk around the rest of the store, and I'll be honest, I don't know, it was just like too much. I'm a little bummed. I don't know. Maybe I need to find, I remember as a kid there being those kinds of hobby stores, because like I said, I was a kid who really liked that kind of stuff, like model trains I also was really into. So I'll have to keep looking for like an ideal little store to frequent. But I think there were cool things in there. It just was like I had to get through all the stuff, and I'm not one of those people who like deals with a lot of things too well. I feel like I just get overwhelmed. It's like a big grocery store. I'm like, it's too much. But after that, I did go to Michael's because I wanted this little LED campfire that they had. And Michael's doesn't really have like miniatures, but they do have a bunch of fairy door things, which are more or less the same. So that's why I think that was part of, there was like a tiny little area by the kids' toys, which I don't really know why they have. It's like, I guess it's kids' crafts kind of thing. And excuse me. And in that area was all these fairy kind of things, and they had this little LED fireplace, which is perfect, and it just like really completes the camp vibe, and it like adds a really nice glow to the photos. So cool, so happy. And I have to say, it's the first time I've been to Michael's in many years. I think I went once, since having a hamster, when I just had maybe Steven, like very early on, and I was looking for like, I was gonna maybe I bought some wooden dowels to make a platform, but at that time it was like peak COVID, so I don't even know if I went in. I think maybe I just picked up an order. So yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by Michael's. It was much more calm, and they had a lot of stuff that could be used for hamsters, cute little hides and ceramic things. Yeah, now that I have hamster eyes, I'm like, oh my gosh, so many things here. So that was interesting. So yeah, I guess I'm a new Michaels fan, a new old Michaels fan. Yeah, so I'm happy with the camp setup, although I feel like, I think it's almost over. Is Starbucks selling the that one drink? What is it? Pumpkin spice. I think Starbucks started selling pumpkin spice, which means I probably need to set up my pumpkin patch pretty soon here. So that is coming up, but I'll give it a little time. My hamsters can, maybe hamster school doesn't start right away. They have a delayed start. Anyway, so other things going on this week. Oh, I learned something very shocking and surprising. So I think I kind of knew there were some dangers with barred cages, but I would say in the hamster community, it's generally considered that barred cages are like a safe option for hamsters as long as they're big enough. So, the Preview 528 is a cage that a lot of people use and love. I think maybe it's been a while that was a cage people used to really love, but now I think standards have gotten better for hamsters. That cage is only about 600 square inches-ish, I believe. So I think many people are thinking they want to be bigger than that. And now there's so many options available for purchase. At the time when a lot of people talked about the 528, there really wasn't a lot for purchase. It was like, you could make yourself a cage, or you could use a 75-gallon tank or 40-gallon. But other than that, that was kind of it. And a lot of people who had a lot of hamsters or breeders or something used 528s because you can stack them and you don't have to worry about airflow because they're barred cages. You get really great airflow. So something that I learned this week is how dangerous barred cages can be. I'm sorry, I have this weird frog in my throat. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm back. That's what I get for recording first thing in the morning. Usually I actually record this on my lunch break. And I did record this on my lunch break yesterday, but then I just I think I was like trying to rush through it because I just had too much going on at work. And I thought, you know what, I just need to do another take of this. It's like, it sounds frantic. Nobody's going to want to listen to this while they take a bath. And I know that's very important to some of you. So anyway, Hamster Info Ireland, has a video on their YouTube and also on Instagram. They talk about the dangers with barred cages. Apparently hamsters can get their legs kind of like tangled in them and break it or just get stuck enough that the leg is unusable. So they recommended that you actually put like a piece of cardboard or something along the sides of a barred cage so your hamster doesn't get injured in it. To me, then it's like, well, why even have a barred cage? Just get a tank style cage. So I think I need to go back and update my website and take down the 528. I mean, I think the reality is I haven't heard of this injury happening a lot, but I think it's worthwhile. I mean, if there's something we can do to make our hamsters' lives better, we should be doing it. And I also think now that we're living in an era when there are so many great cage options for hamsters, not only from Night Angel, but also Bukastat, and then these kind of, I don't want to call them off brands, but not as like well-known brands like the Pro Lee cage that I have. There's so many great options, and then also a bin cage. I think maybe it just doesn't make sense to do a barred cage anymore. So I am going to update my website and remove the barred cage options and maybe have a little disclaimer about why they can be dangerous. One thing I do travel with barred cages. I don't travel a lot with my hamsters, but I do often say, I think there is a safety concern when you travel with hamsters. If they're in a non-ventilated, I know that a plastic tub might be ventilated at the top, but if it's not ventilated at the side, you might end up having a heating issue, like it might get too hot from sun coming through the window. And I have heard of people losing hamsters that way. So I think this is something I'll have to think about, like what makes the most sense. I also think barred cages are great when you travel because you can adhere things to the side of the barred cage so you can allow your hamster to still have a wheel and a water bottle and not worry about those things falling on them. If you're in a plastic tub situation, you could modify the tub to like cut a hole and put the wheel, adhere the wheel that way through the tub. But it would take some crafting on your end, and not everybody has the time or space or ability to do that. So it might be something that it's like, on the few occasions when you're going to travel with a hamster, maybe being in a critter trail makes sense for an hour or two, and then you can put them back in their solid wall enclosure. But it is something that I have to think about. I'm curious what you all think of that. Is that new information for you guys? Maybe you guys knew that, but for me, it was kind of new. Like, I knew it, but I didn't really have definitive. It's like I had heard, like, somebody maybe said, oh yeah, that happened to me. But yeah, I do feel differently now. On to other news. So I entered Dexter into the Michigan Humane Society photo contest, and I posted about it on YouTube and Instagram. And a huge thank you to mfelda594. She voted and donated to the Michigan Humane Society. You are such a rock star. Thank you. I was really excited about this. I was like even thinking like, okay, maybe when the end of the contest gets closer, I'm just going to donate as much money as I need to like get him in the top 3 or something. But now there's like one dog that has like 41,000 votes. That's the equivalent of $40,000. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. But maybe I can get him closer to maybe the top 10 or something. We'll see. But the cause is great, and the Michigan Humane Society is a wonderfully run organization and well regarded. So thank you so much for your donation. And if anyone else wants to donate, they're a great place. Other things going on. I got a big box of nuts for Maurice. Maurice is my dwarf hamster who does not have top teeth, and so he can't chew. And so I grind up nuts for him. He also eats soft food, baby foods. He goes in and out of phases. Like some days he like eats the baby food and some days he doesn't. So I also supplement him with the ground up nuts. I give him whatever I can that I can grind up. So I grind up the lab blocks. I grind up, I just bought all these nuts. So I got cashews and pecans and sunflower seeds and pepitas. And what else did I get? Pumpkin seeds. Yeah. So what I like about nuts.com is it's easy to find nuts that are like unsalted and shelled. Sometimes it's hard to find like exactly that combination. So if you need nuts for your hamsters, they also have a lot of great just nuts in general. I use them to buy my whole nuts in shell. That's where I get them. So highly recommend in case you need some nuts. Nuts.com for the win. Other things going on. So I went to PetSmart. It's on the other side of town from me, but I was over there running an errand. I don't remember what I was doing, but I just kind of stopped in because I thought, let's see what's going on at PetSmart. I never go here. And I noticed, this was very interesting, all of their hamsters had hay in like a hay kind of trough thing, the way they have it for their rabbits and chinchillas. And then also they were eating oxbow. And so I felt a little confused, especially because the sign said proudly eating full cheeks, right? And so I asked someone at the front when I went to go check out, I was buying some paper bedding, and they said like, oh, well, we give them hay for enrichment, which I was like, okay. I mean, I don't think they get like much enrichment from hay being in a trough, but okay. And then they said they give them oxbow because their vet told them that that's the most healthy option for hamsters. And I said, I actually don't think that that's true. And they said, well, where did you get that information? And I was kind of like, where did I get that information? And do I have something to cite to say why I don't think it's good? I knew that it had too much hay in it, but I wasn't really sure the science behind that. So just kind of let it be. And I reached out to Tony from the California Hamster Association and Rescue Cottage. And Tony got back to me quickly with tons of great information about why oxbow is not healthy for hamsters. Hamsters actually can digest hay, but it's too high in fiber. So what happens is the fiber kind of prevents them from absorbing it all. And in the end, it's like they can't really thrive on oxbow, so they can't gain weight. Especially a young hamster who really has maybe more caloric needs. Oxbow is also low in protein. So it's only about 14 or 15% when hamsters really need somewhere between 18 to 20-ish%. So after chatting with Tony back and forth, I asked her if she wanted to come on the podcast and talk more about oxbow and all of her great hamster experience. And she does like so much in the rescue community and for the CHA, and I thought she'd be such a cool resource to hear from. So she said yes, so we're just working on when to have her on, but I'm really excited. It'll be so fun. So yay, we can look forward to that. And then other news. Oh, I got a new hamster. His name is Lester Young. I name my hamsters after jazz legends. Lester Young was a really musical saxophonist. Some at the time of Lester Young's era criticized him for having too simple phrasing, but many really great musicians noted that what actually he did was, rather than complicate melodies with unimportant notes, he found exactly what to say musically. So he's a really beautiful musician, and what I like about naming my hamsters after musicians is it reminds me to listen to them, and so I'm going to be listening to some more Lester Young. But let me tell you about my Lester. Lester is a little robo. I found him on the Hamster Rehoming Facebook group, and his mother, he was acquired by someone who was just kind of taking him in from a friend who didn't want him anymore, and he needed somewhere to go before this woman went off to college. So and actually it's really great. When I met her, she's actually going to study veterinary science, so it's so great. She had 2 other hamsters she's bringing with her to college, but she didn't think she could bring 3 into her dorm room, which I understand. But he came with his Christmas tree bin. He's kind of a ghost hamster, but I actually think I'm going to have some good luck with him. He came out last night. He's been kind of like sitting by my desk this week, and he came out last night. I even was able to put him in the playpen, and he seemed fine. I mean, he does hide from me, but I might be able to make some roads with him. So I'm excited. I have my first Christmas tree bin. I've always wanted one. So I'm going to try to spruce it up a little bit for him. It's pretty simple right now. I'm going to use my new Night Angel corner sand bath, and I have a little corner platform. And right now I have a Bukastat 10-inch wheel for him. And I've got all sorts of cute new hides from Happy Hamstery. So feeling very excited about this new little guy. I would say it's like, I felt like I had a full house, but it's especially a robo that just is, robos are easy to take on. I think the harder hamsters tend to be the ones who need a little more medical work or need more attention. And of course, we all love the hamster who needs attention. I have mine, Dexter, but I knew that I didn't have the space to have another hamster who needed a lot of attention, because Dexter takes up a lot of my time, and I love him for that. But getting a sort of quiet robo was an easy yes. So I have him now in the family, and I'll post photos of him as soon as I can. And then lastly this week, my rescue of the week is Happy Horizon Hamster Haven, 4 H's. They are in Ohio near Cincinnati. I was chatting with this woman who runs this rescue. She just started the rescue, but she's actually been rescuing hamsters for a long time. And she works with she works at a vet clinic, so she has inside knowledge. She's super knowledgeable, and she had actually taken in a lot of medically needy hamsters. She has one right now named Lemonade, who has an eye problem, who's going to get the eye removed. I donated to her medical bills. She's another hamster who's very diabetic and is actually getting insulin shots, which I've never heard of for a hamster. Just seems like a really knowledgeable, wonderful person, and she's been doing a great job getting hamsters adopted out. And I might even adopt Lemonade at some point. Once I'm able to. She's a little bit of a ways from me, so we were kind of talking about meeting up somewhere in between. But Lemonade sounded fun. She's kind of a feisty hamster, not really a snuggly one, but one that's like a lot of energy and really fun and likes to, likes boredom breakers. And I do love those kinds of hamsters. And I thought, I could give her a good home. So I might adopt Lemonade. But right now, just hoping for her speedy recovery. She's going to have eye surgery, I believe, on Tuesday. So we'll hope the best for her. And now, finally, I'm going to talk about tropical rat mites. So I know I've been saying I'm going to do an episode about tropical rat mites, and then I keep not doing it. Finally doing it. Finally. Okay, give me a second. More water. Okay, so here we go. How to deal with tropical rat mites. So I'm going to tell you my experience and what I did. Some of it is science and things that I learned about mites and tropical rat mites. And some of it is just like, this worked for me, or someone told me to do this and I did it. And I don't really have any evidence that it didn't work. It's kind of one of those things. I feel like when I found out I had tropical rat mites, I went to the message, like the Facebook groups, and I asked questions, and people were really wonderful to kind of give me their anecdotal advice of what they did. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could create one website page where I just had all the information of like the things that I collected from all these different people, so that if you have tropical rat mites, you can just go to one place and this is what you need. This is how to deal with it. Because I think that was the challenge. One of the challenges for me is I found the mites, and then I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And that was a whole thing. So hopefully this is helpful to you. And if you don't have them now, maybe this gives you an idea of how to deal with them if you do ever have them. Hopefully you don't ever have them. The reality is tropical rat mites, we call them tropical rat mites. They're just mites. They live on rodents, in the wild. So they could come in through your window. They could, if you have a mouse in the house or mice somewhere, that could spark something. You might get them from, you might even, I don't know, maybe you could get them from the vet, or from like if there's another rodent there and one falls off of them. There's a lot of ways you could get mites and there's not really clear information on it. Like some people say maybe you could get them from bedding. I don't really understand that. Mites live off of blood. So one way you would know it's a mite is if you squish it and there's blood that comes out, it's a mite. There are other bugs who live on hamster food. Those are not mites. Mites don't live on food. They live on blood of either the hamster or you. They only host on rodents, but they can also bite humans. So that was my first clue that I had tropical rat mites, is I was getting bitten. I didn't see it on my hamsters because they're so small, but I was getting all these bites around my wrists and my ankles, and I could not figure it out. Like, there wasn't a clear reason. I was going outside, like I go on walks, but it was like, I don't understand. Why would I have so many mosquito bites? They were also smaller than a mosquito bite, kind of, like a mosquito bite sometimes can be like 3/8 of an inch or a half inch, These were more like, I don't know, like a quarter or smaller of an inch, like pretty small bite, like maybe even an 1/8 inch. So I knew it wasn't mosquito. So that went on for a week before I realized that I had tropical rat mites. And for me, it was one day I noticed I was looking very closely at little Maurice. He was acting a little unusual for him. He was sleeping against the glass in his Night Angel Vista. And I was looking at him thinking, isn't that sweet that he's sleeping out in the open? And I realized probably the reason he was doing that is because he wasn't feeling well, because he was covered in mites. And when I looked at him, I was like, oh no, he has mites. So I do think maybe a behavioral change is a possible indicator. So once you realize that you have them, number one, make a vet appointment ASAP. I have on my website some vets. I try to collect vets in the area, but what you want to look for is an exotic vet. Make sure they see pocket pets, exotic vets will see pocket pets, birds, lizards, that kind of thing. So if you want to Google that in your area, you can also post to the message boards on Facebook to try to find one in your area. And there's also, I don't know if there is a thing called Vetster, and I've been reaching out to them to ask, like, is this something they could prescribe medicine for? I don't really know. So Vetster is like an online way of seeing a vet. And I have used them when I was in a pinch, but I don't know if they'd be able to help you in this kind of situation. Anyway, so find a vet, make a vet appointment ASAP so you can get in there. Then go and catch a mite. So take a piece of tape, catch a few mites, put them in a plastic bag, and then that way it's ready to go. When you go to the vet, you can show them these are the bugs, and they can look at them in a microscope and confirm exactly what they are. So I did that, and the mites were actually alive for me, so they were crawling around. And the vet was able to say, like, yep, these are definitely mites, so we can treat them. We can treat your hamster for mites. So the reason you want to catch the mites is because often when you move your hamster, you put them in their carrier, the mites fall off and it's hard to find them, and they're often very small. So having them like on a piece of tape really will help the process. It'll make the appointment go faster and help the vet make a more knowledgeable diagnosis, right? So now that you have your vet appointment and you have your mite in your plastic bag, or maybe a few, you want to isolate your hamster. So get a plastic bin. It doesn't have to be a 200-quart bin. It can be something smaller. Maybe something smaller is better because you're going to be moving them to a new bin every time you treat them with the Revolution, which is the treatment. Every time you give them a treatment, you're going to put them in a new bin and start fresh with everything, with their bedding and, clean everything. So a smaller bin is nice because it's just less to deal with, especially because it's kind of difficult. It's not an ideal time in their lives, but the best thing for the hamster and for you is to be able to do this, do it well, make sure you get rid of the bugs. So I think in this kind of situation, having them in something like a 100-quart bin or maybe an 80-quart bin is a better thing than having them in a 200-quart bin and struggling with keeping it clean. So go ahead and put them in that bin. Give them some new bedding, give them some cardboard items or something that you can easily clean, like something ceramic or plastic. I used a little bit of paper bedding, a little bit of hemp, and then I used some random cardboard I had collected, cereal boxes, coffee holder containers. Those are really fun for them to climb on. I tried to make it as interesting as possible and get them set up in there. And then you want to put a Vaseline along the top edge of that bin. And that's going to keep the mites from getting out. So the mites are currently hosting on the hamster. Mites cannot host on you. So even if they're biting you, they're not going to remain on you. You're not going to be a host, so you don't have to worry about that. So just go ahead and put Vaseline along the top edge of that bin, and you shouldn't have to worry about the mites getting out. I typically don't use lids on my bin. I think in this case, you really don't need to because you're not going to have so much bedding or platforms or anything in there. It's a pretty simple setup and there's not really a way that your hamster should be able to get out. But for safety concerns or, you know your hamster best. So do what you think is right for your hamster. But I definitely keep them isolated, put them in another room, close the door, keep them separate from the room they were in. So they have like a clean and new space to be in. Okay, so now that your hamster's isolated, you can begin to clean their cage and all the items. So first thing, you want to just chuck or compost anything that's like their bedding, sprays, anything that's like, you can't really save it, right? So that's all the paper bedding, all the substrates. And unfortunately, I think the sprays probably do also need to go. I know that's sad because you spend so much money on those sprays. So go ahead and get rid of those, get them out. And then anything wooden, I baked those items at 200 degrees for about an hour. I found that was enough to sanitize them. I don't like to go above 200 degrees Fahrenheit because it burns the wooden items. So keep the temperature a little bit lower, just go longer to make sure you get all those mites killed. And then ceramic items and plastic items you can wash in hot water with soap. I would wear dish gloves so you can like get it as hot as possible, or use the dishwasher. Those are good ways to really sanitize, keep it clean. And then you're going to wipe the cage with, so what I did is I used a water alcohol spray. I have 50% water, 50% alcohol, and just spray it everywhere. That really killed the bugs. And then anywhere where it was wooden, I rubbed diatomaceous earth, food grade diatomaceous earth, kind of all over the wooden parts of the cage. So because I had a Night Angel Vista, I had 2 of them. That's what I did. I just kind of rubbed diatomaceous earth all over them. I honestly just sprinkled diatomaceous earth over the whole area where the cages were. And I kind of rubbed it in a little bit and rubbed it in the carpet. And then I let it be. So diatomaceous earth is, I've talked about it before, but it's sort of a strange thing. It's like the sediment, it's like ground up shells, basically, like seashells. And it's non-toxic, but it's very kind of dry and to something like a crawling bug, like a mite or an ant or a spider. Diatomaceous earth, it's like a bunch of pieces of glass. So they can't crawl over it, actually. And it will eventually kill them because it dries them out. So diatomaceous earth is a great way to safely eradicate mites. It can be irritating to your lungs and your skin because it is kind of like tiny pieces of glass. So wear gloves, wear an N95 mask, wear goggles. I did all those things when handling diatomaceous earth, and make sure your hamsters are not in the room when you're doing this. When you use diatomaceous earth in a room, just do it, let it be for like a day. I mean, they say like an hour, but I found that sometimes I could feel it in my lungs if I was around it too much. So better safe than sorry. It's not going to kill you, but it's not comfortable. So once you do that, now you can start to clean the room in general. So I kind of went crazy with diatomaceous earth. I sprinkled it all over the carpets, rub it in, let it sit for like 20 minutes, and then you can vacuum. Again, wear those gloves, wear the N95 mask because it's going to kind of get in the air. And that will also help kill the mites. You want to actually specifically get it in the corners, like where the carpet meets the wall. So really get it in there all along those corners. And honestly, I just did this I did it like every day for a while. I just kept vacuuming with the diatomaceous earth. I did it all over my house, really, just to make sure that I was like getting rid of the bugs so they weren't there after the treatment was over. Okay, so after you do that, you get everything clean, then you're going to want to get your house treated. This is my personal recommendation. I called Orkin. I had also an ant problem going on, so I had called Orkin about the ants. When Orkin came out, I was like, you know what? I actually also have this weird thing where my hamsters have mites. And they were like, you know what? That could be, you might have a rodent infestation. And then they did find that in my attic, there were mice and bats. So what I did is I had, and also there were holes near the vents in my roof where little critters were coming in. So Orkin said that that was a possible cause of the mites, that they could have traveled from the rodents, that were living one floor above me onto my rodents. So what they did is sealed up those holes, and it seems like the rodents were coming and going. So when they were up there, they didn't see any active rodents, but they saw definitely a lot of remains of rodents. But there was one bat, And so they put a back cone in so he could leave but not come back, he or she. And then we sealed up the holes in the roof and got rid of the insulation and put down new insulation that had like, I think something similar to diatomaceous earth in it that's like sort of, less, that's a little bit more bug repellent and isn't as inviting. So I did have that done. And I will say, since I did all those things, I have not had a mite problem. So who knows where yours came from, but I will just say that did work for me. So then you're going to continue. Once you bring your hamsters to the vet, they will give you Revolution, which is a mite treatment, and it's topical. So you put it on their back, like nape of their back, kind of right. It's like where they can't touch. So you want to put it like right, kind of like on their neck, basically. And for my vets told me to do it once every 2 weeks. I've heard of people doing it differently, but this is what I did. Once every 2 weeks and 3 times. So the whole treatment lasted 6 weeks. I know some people do this Revolution treatment on their own. I think there are different places where you could buy it. I would not recommend that. I've heard anecdotally of people killing their hamsters by accident this way. So if you don't know what you're doing, please just go to a vet. I think there are some rescues who do this because they know and they do this a lot. And they really do need to be on top of making sure that hamsters don't have mites. And for reference, like Revolution is something like cats get Revolution. I think like normally they get, I think like every 6 weeks it's like put, on them. So it's totally safe, but you do need to know how to do it. And what it does basically is it absorbs into their blood, or I think it's, okay, I don't want to say things that I don't know, but my understanding is it absorbs into their bloodstream and it makes the mites who host on them die or either not like their blood. One of the two. It makes them no longer a good host. And I saw pretty much immediate relief for my hamsters. As soon as I gave them that treatment, I no longer really saw any bugs and I wasn't getting bitten anymore. So very effective. But I still went through all 3 treatments and they went through 3 plastic bins. So every 2 weeks I would give them the new treatment and immediately place them into a new clean plastic bin where everything was either new or had been sanitized. And then I put new Vaseline along the top edge. And then we did that again. So that was it. And it worked for me. I'm really curious, those of you who have had tropical rat mites, if you'd like to share your experience, I would love to hear from you. Ideally, if you'd like to comment on the YouTube video, that will allow other people to see your experience and learn from yours as well. But if you want to send me an email, my email is always open. It's rachelgothamsters@gmail.com. And of course, you can find me on Instagram and message me there as well. I'm Stephen and Sophia Hamster, I guess. I thought about changing that, but anyway, that's what it is. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm going to put everything in the episode notes as always. So if you want links to anything, it'll be there. And I'm working on a website page for all of this tropical rat mite information. So hopefully there will be a one-stop shop for that soon. And I will link to that down below. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope to see you in my next episode. Bye.